Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais, and my co-host, Andrew Bobo, is on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. Welcome back to Matter of Facts podcast. I have a couple of administrative chores to deal with, and then we're going to get right to a topic which I am hoping resonates, because Andrew and I have both complained about this in the past, and I don't know anyone that counts himself a member of a community that hasn't dealt with gatekeeping, even if you haven't heard that word used to describe it before. But first and foremost, I've been delinquent in thanking the patrons that contribute $1, $5, or $10 to us every month on Patreon. Keep the show afloat. The show doesn't have sponsors. We don't shill. We
just get a couple new Patreons too.
We did just get a couple of new patrons. We got one from Wisconsin to join the other Wisconsin contingent. And I'm drawing a blank on the other one. Thank you, Andrew. I was doing so good. Like, I remember to thank the patrons for the first time in 6 months, and then here's Andrew with, "Who are they, Phil?" Darn it.
Is it another guy from Michigan?
Yes. So we added 2 Yankees to our ranks. I am still the only Louisianian.
Leonard, his name.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound familiar? Yeah, Leonard's a friend of mine. Good dude, solid dude. He lives downstate. I met him through MDFI classes. Solid dude, really cool. He's awesome to talk to. I love his camping setup. I am really jealous of his camping setup, actually. But So he texted me, and when we put up the episode about the MOF trip being in Michigan, he texted me and he's like, "Okay, you got me to sign up." And so yeah, I'm really appreciative. I'm appreciative of all of our Patreons, but it's awesome to hear.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'm remiss in not mentioning them more often, but I mean, the truth of the matter is that the patrons afford us a certain level of, what's the word I'm looking for here? They afford us the ability to focus on the show and to focus on things we want to talk about and not have to either chase advertisers every month, which I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
And even better is that we don't ever have to worry about upsetting a sponsor and then them threatening to pull their sponsorship out from underneath us, because as long as I keep that little group of patrons perfectly happy, I mean, things are good. And I think we've established by now that they're a little hard to offend for the most part. But I have to acknowledge them. I have to get better about doing that. The other thing, I got reamed out by our merchandising partner.
Oh yeah, I haven't checked that chat in a long time.
Okay,
I've been terrible about it.
Not reamed out. One of the two who runs our merchandise partner, the Southern Gals. One of them reached out to me and said, "Hey, dude, you've been really, really remiss about like mentioning that we even have merch." And I took that on the chin, and I swore up and down I would throw the shirt on. I would mention we do have merchandise. The links are down in the show description, anywhere you're looking at this. So if you're curious, if you want to look and see what's out there, then I recommend you go down to the little link that says merch and has a URL next to it. I browbeat my wife into working on some new merch for Raising Values literally like 45 minutes ago. And that's on my radar because I've got some ideas. I'm not a graphic design person. I'm an artist. So I have to find somebody who can take my stupid ideas and then put them onto shirts. But
also, I just want to throw it out there really quick.
Welcome to the Raising Values podcast, where the traditional family.
Sorry, I pulled up our website.
What are you doing?
No, it auto-played. But no, so I just pulled it up because I wanted to make sure that it was on the website. So if you go to mofpodcast.com and if you go up to the top, depending on what your browser is and stuff like that, you might see the little link that says more. If you click on that, or it says gear. So click on gear and it actually will take you to the Southern Gales merch store as well. So a couple different ways you can get there.
Yeah, and the thing I'm the most happy about is that people that have been listening to the show for a while will remember that we used to do merch through Teespring, and then what happened was we had some friends of ours approach us and say, "Hey, we do a small business. We run a small business, and we could do the merch for y'all. And if I have to throw money into somebody's pocket, quite frankly, I'd rather put it in a small business than to give it to Teespring."
Yeah.
So there's that.
So I'm just gonna throw it out there right now, and I'm gonna throw her right under the whole school bus. But somebody, another co-host of yours, won't name names, but she needs to contact a certain doctor that we met at prepper camp, and she keeps putting it off. I'm waiting for the nasty message in the Facebook.
You do know that she's like right on the other side of this wall.
I think I heard her scream.
Well, the minute you say one of your other co-hosts, there's only
I know.
two
I didn't name names. I didn't drop any names. So,
but
no. So I'm just gonna throw it out there. I mean, I think I've hounded her a lot about getting this doctor on. It's okay, Kyle. I'll be asking for it, but Phil will hear it since I'm a long ways away. Did you just find it? You just told us the entire time that you didn't have it?
I never said I didn't have it. I said I kept forgetting. I'm a forgetful person. But I have the card. I left it right on the nightstand where all the where all my Manus training stuff is.
Okay, I'll give you 5 seconds. Run around the corner and give it to her right now.
Okay. Entertain the audience. I'll be back in 1 second.
No. So those of you guys who don't know what we're talking about, I'm not going to throw them on here because it's a good show for raising values. It's a doctor and his wife that approached Phil and I at prepper camp, and basically the doctor was very he was very anti-COVID. It was very against the shot and everything, and he's pushing back against it, and he actually lost a lot by basically being one of the only doctors that I can think of that stood up against the government, stood up against the mandates, stood up against what the people his higher ups were telling him to do, and he's like, no, I refuse to push the shot, and he lost a lot, and so that we talked about that, and that was Phil and I both basically after we got done talking to him, we basically looked at each other and was like, raising values. That'd be a perfect episode for raising values. So I've been hounding your beautiful, amazing better half, but she's been busy taking care of you.
I just went
so
and handed
I'll let
the
her
business
slide.
card to the host of Raising Values directly.
Anyway, now that stopped getting you into trouble and me into deeper trouble.
I'm going to make dinner as soon as it's over, so I'll get right back out of trouble. I know the weight of my women's hearts. But let's talk about gatekeeping. So gatekeeping, for anybody not familiar with the term, is when you encounter a person who is trying to exclude you from from information, from a community, from a resource, because of some reason. Usually it's perceived. A lot of times the best analogy I can make is, Andrew, you and I've talked about the gun community and how they love to eat their own over that guy has a Palmetto State Armory and I have Daniel Defense, and what are you poor, and why didn't you buy a better rifle, and it's not duty rated, your optics are from China. Does all this sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
That's all gatekeeping. That is basically saying you are not allowed into the community because you did not spend $4,000 on your rifle.
Oh, I just thought that was just someone being a dick.
Well, but there's a term for it because, being a dick doesn't roll off the tongue as well as gatekeeping. But I thought I'd bring it up because, everybody knows, Phil, your audio is really low. Andrew, can you hear me fairly well?
Huh?
such a
Yes,
jerk.
I can.
Okay, well, I just bumped up my mic volume a little bit, so hopefully that helps. But
Yeah.
one of the things I ran into recently, because like I've been getting more and more into amateur radio, and as part of that GMRS community,
I almost died.
Jesus, Andrew,
You know what? I've had a hard day.
you want me to come rub your head?
No,
Okay.
that sounded wrong. He's not that kind of host.
We don't have that kind of relationship. But
Any answers?
Andrew always comes in better on my end. Okay, well, fine. Let me just swallow the microphone. That'll help.
Speaking of the
But
microphone,
one of the things that I notice a lot with the amateur radio community, the more I get into it, is that there are those people within that community that they're extremely judgmental of like equipment based on cost. Like there are those guys out there that listen, ain't nobody paying for me to shake my moneymaker.
would you
Okay,
just
nobody
finish
wants
your
that.
thought?
Anyway, but like if you come into that group and let's say you have a Baofeng or even like the Wuxin that I run or any of these Chinese radios, there's a group out there that get really bent out of shape because it's a Chinese radio, it's crap, it's this and the other. You'll hear things thrown around like spurious emissions and everything about your ability to join that community or the validity that you were even part of that community is called into question because you bought Chinese radios instead of Yaesu, Motorola, so on and so forth. And this came to the forefront of my consciousness just the other day because I happened to be in one of the GMRS groups that I'm in, and I saw a guy in one long 5-paragraph long rant. He started off having a complete meltdown over people using what's called like non-Type 95C approved equipment, which basically means, when something is 95C approved, the FCC says this complies to the regulations it's supposed to, so you can use it for GMRS. And there's a debate within the GMRS community that if it's not 95C approved, you are violating FCC's regulations by using that equipment, even if you're using it in compliance with the terms of 95C. So in other words, this would be like if you own a car and let's say the DOT hasn't said that car is approved to drive on the roads, but you follow all the laws, then you're still breaking the law. That's the best analogy I can give you. And that all was going on. And then in the same paragraph, he got bent out of shape over people buying Chinese radios. And a few people, rightfully so, pointed out to him all of the 95C approved radios all come from China. There are no US made or Japanese made radios that are 95C. Like even Midland, that are a lot of people consider to be like made in the USA, they're not manufactured here. So the point was, if you want one of these radios that you're saying are the best radios out there, Motorola's, Yaesu's, and all those, they don't make anything for GMRS. Those are all ham radios. Now, you can take a ham radio and you can program it so that it will functionally work like a GMRS radio, but that wasn't his argument. His argument was, if you do this, you're not part of the community, and then if you do the exact opposite, you're also not part of the community. So that's what got me all, hot under the collar and fired up. Huh?
In a tizzy.
Well, it made me think about like all the other times where we've encountered gatekeeping, and I'm sure other people have encountered it. And the frustrating part for me, specific to like the GMRS community, because that's where this happened, was like I've talked to my dad, who is my father he's been a ham radio operator longer than I've been alive. And he has done things on ham radio that like a very small group here in the US are licensed to do. He knows a ton about it, but even though he has an active ham license, all of his equipment's still in boxes. He doesn't want to rejoin the ham radio community because of gatekeeping, because there were people who wanted to like pick and choose and exclude who was allowed to be in the club for stupid reasons. And he didn't want to associate with those people. And I'm seeing some of those same people dip their toe into GMRS because it's getting more and more popular. And then the same reason why they chased a lot of people out of ham and they part of the reason why I didn't join the ham radio community is because of these people who are gatekeeping. Because I don't want to be told that my sack of $25 Chinese radios, isn't good enough to talk on a repeater with somebody with a $400 radio. If I'm enjoying the hobby, and if I'm using it, within the bounds, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, then your opinion of my equipment or my whatever shouldn't be relevant. But that's gatekeeping. That's what I'm seeing more and more, not just across the amateur radio community, but we see it in the firearms community. We see it really, really seriously in the night vision community, and we see it in the preparedness community. I mean, Andrew, have you ever had anybody in the preparedness community tell you that if you don't have 20 acres and a homestead, you're not a prepper? Because I've
No.
heard that.
Oh, I haven't. No,
Well,
my big thing was with firearms. That's that's one reason why that's why I got off of Facebook, among other reasons. I remember when I got into building ARs and stuff, and I think it was like AR-15 builders something or whatever, I don't remember. And I mean, it was fun. I was always just seeing what other people were doing and getting ideas and stuff. I never really posted. I think I posted one time, and it was basically, actually no, I replied. That's the thing is, I don't remember. I've never posted anything, but this one guy posted a AR that was an Anderson manufacturing lower that he got for like $25 or something like that. I know, because I have a couple of those. And he built it. He was on a budget. The dude built it himself. Well, assembled it, kind of thing. But he basically put it together. Was on a budget. Was super proud of it. Researched his butt off. Went through and was like, "This is what I did. These are the specs and all that." And the freaking community tore him apart because he had an Anderson manufacturing lower, and it was constantly, all that I kept reading was, why didn't you get BCM? Why didn't you get Noveski? Why didn't you get Daniel Defense? Why didn't you get this? And he was like, and I mean, honestly, it was, well, yeah, because the BCM, all these lowers were, $300, $400, $500 assembled lower with a stock and stuff like that. I mean, you're looking at a Daniel Defense and stuff like that. I mean, they're not cheap. Especially Noveski. And if you look into it and look at where like these parts actually come from, they all come from pretty much the exact same suppliers as far as like the lowers and stuff. It's just these manufacturers, they're the ones that, they might finish them and stuff like that. But I mean, and the people they were making they did make, the one valid point they made was the fact that, hey, QC is somewhat better at these other companies. Okay, I give you that. Because I have had some issues with, actually, no, it was R guns. My first AR ever built was with an R guns lower. It was out of spec. It would not do crap. I had to send it back. They kind of milled out a couple things. It was fine. But that being said, I've never had issues with Anderson manufacturing lowers, and I know people who have built Anderson lowers. I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, Trek had a lower, or had a rifle with Anderson manufacturing parts in it at a carbine class, and he beat the hell out of that freaking gun. And he was like, "See, it runs." The thing that cracks me up is the thing that really makes me laugh is you have somebody with a $500 AR, and you have somebody with their $3,000 or whatever $1,000 AR, or even $1,000, you'd say. I can guarantee you the $500 AR has been out of the safe and used pretty much more than some of these other guys that get this gun and they don't want to shoot it, they don't want to mark it up, they don't want to scar it up. This other one is beat to crap and it's used. I've seen that time and time again. I'm not saying that's with everybody with these kind of ARs, but I'm just saying I've seen it time and time again. And it's just ridiculous because it's something as small as the parts that you put in your gun. Honestly, I don't care what you have in your gun, what your gun is, what your gun is pieced together with. If you can run it and you're responsible, okay, like that's it. Like, I want you to be a responsible armed citizen. I want you to be able to run it, and I want you to know it, and I want you to be able to accurately, send some rounds down range if ever needed. Honestly, that's all I really care about. And So I want them, and so that's what gets me is, and that's what annoys me also is the fact that the community, whatever community you want to talk about, if we as a gun community could frickin' stand together and actually push back against the government, we won't need firearms, we won't need bullets, we wouldn't need that kind of crap. If all the gun owners in America would stand together and say, you know what, other politics aside, we can agree on that we need the Second Amendment and it's important to fight off the government or to for the people to be armed. Yeah, we should actually band together and let's make some corrections. We would actually make a lot of change in this world, in the United States, if not the world. And that's the thing is, we're so separated, we're so divided over the stupidest crap. There's people that get mad over the freaking the color of your Cerakote. Like, come on, you are that retarded, like that freaking petty. Come on.
Well, and more than just in the narrow context of the Second Amendment community and like us trying to push back, us trying to reclaim our gun rights, but I look at it as, what is the one thing that keeps every community going? And it's new membership, because communities, in my experience, are either expanding or they're declining. They don't stay stagnant for very long. And the gun community can, at times, be really, really good about shooting themselves in the foot and chasing other people out of the community. Or, say what?
I said, dude.
Yeah, but I mean, they can shoot themselves in the foot. Thank you. But they can be really good about chasing people out of the community who otherwise are really enthusiastic and want to be part of the gun community. They want to meet their fellow armed citizen and they want to learn from other people. And yet when you sit there and tell them that the Anderson manufacturing lower their AR is built on, that might be all they can freaking afford because they're on a fixed income, is crap. You do one of two things. Either you chase that person into the shadows where they don't want to be part of your community, but they're going to keep the gun, but they may not learn anymore. They're going to stop right there in place because you put such a bad taste in their mouth, or they're going to leave the community entirely. And they're going to say, if this is representative of this community and this lifestyle, I don't want to be a part of it because I was treated poorly. And it might sound extreme, but it happens more and more. Again, a lot of the reason why I didn't want to join the ham radio community was because I met a lot of people who, quite frankly, didn't seem to have a lot of they seemed to have a lot of interest in telling you what the right way to ham was, but they didn't seem to have a lot of interest in actually inviting in new hams. And if you can't keep people coming into your community and wanting to learn and wanting to grow it and wanting to spread it, the community starts to die. And while we're on this subject, I see this a lot in the night vision community too, which I've only recently become a part of. Like I see one of two groups. I either see the people who have like the $10,000 binos, and when they see somebody with PV, shut up, Andrew. We don't all have single man money to throw around, and no one's paying me to take my clothes off. MOF OnlyFans is not a thing. Although that would be a hell of a cool logo, MOF. But no one's paying me to take my clothes off. Certainly not enough to afford night vision. Anyway, but yeah, you see the guy with the $10,000 night vision, and when somebody walks up with a PVS 14, he's like, "What are you, poor?" And it's like, a Gen 3 PVS 14, even on the low end, is $2,500. That's not an amount of money to sneeze at for the common man. But I also find that I see this other weird version of gatekeeping where people are like racing to the bottom of who can get the cheapest night vision, who can get the best specs for the cheapest money. And then you're constantly being told when you show up and you say, "Hey, I just got my first PVS 14. Oh, you overpaid for it. You should have got it from, JoeCrackhead.com, the fly-by-night night vision seller who, who doesn't have years in the industry, who doesn't have any indication he'll back up a warranty, but you overpaid for it. You could have got cheaper from this other guy."
Well, I heard that when I got my PVS 14. Honestly, now that I think about it, because like I got mine from Ready Made Resources.
Mm-hmm.
And
you got told you overpaid, right?
Well, no, I didn't get no. I was told that, oh, what do they know about it and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, did you listen? That's like, listen to this episode, and you can tell me what this guy knows, because he freaking walked us through it, and he's the one that really got the bug in. But I mean, and you have that unit. I hate it. I hate selling it because the picture was so freaking clear, and it's one of the best. I mean, I've looked. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with night vision, but like I've looked through a handful of units, and that 14 that you have it's one of the better pictures that I've seen. Especially when it comes to like basically zero blems, and so blemishes and stuff. So
That
yeah,
and
no,
not and not
it's
to
the
toot my
same
own
thing.
horn, but Jesus, it's got a really nice EBI.
Yeah,
I mean, look, just I use it differently than I think you did a lot. I use it a lot for stargazing, and I'm going to tell you that some of the pictures I've managed to take through this thing at campsites way out in the middle of nowhere with minimal light pollution are, I mean, just like chef's kiss beautiful. It's it's a beautiful tube.
you're welcome.
God,
Anyway,
that could be
um,
misconstrued so poorly.
it's gonna be that's a meme. Um, but no, yeah, that's the thing, and so it's like, what can you do? The just yeah, I don't even know.
Well, before we move on to the next thing, like, are there any other? I mean, amateur radio, guns, night vision,
Anything,
the
computers, vehicles, cameras.
but
I mean,
specific to this show, the preparedness community.
right. I mean, knives, like anything, literally anything, tents, like you name it, and there's gonna be a community where people are just d-bags.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of helping, they tear the people down, and that's not what we should be doing as a community. We should be helping building each other up. Like, that's the biggest complaint that I have. I mean, but that's the internet. You're gonna have the trolls. It's a sad day when those people can't get punched in the face, for being just d-bags who do nothing but criticize but don't want to help the community. But yeah, it's ridiculous. And that's the thing, that's ultimately what's going to destroy uh, any community. That's what's going to do, if when the Second Amendment is no longer, when it is stamped null and void, and we are being forced to in camps. I'm going to blame every single one of those people that did not either stand up and fight for their right to party, but
Thank you, Kyle.
I know, right? Kyle, this sucks. Two-wheel drive sucks so bad.
I'm
But
gonna tell you both what I've told quite a few people that give me good natured crap about having a 2-wheel drive truck. I've driven 2-wheel drive trucks into into places that most people won't take a 4-wheel drive truck and got back out.
just because a four-wheel drive already went through it.
Go line up 24-wheel drive trucks on the road right in front of my house right now, and I promise you I'm going to find 19 spotless undercarriages from trucks that have never been off road. You
Just
and I
'cause they
both know
wash
that
them.
my truck goes off the pavement. I just have the common sense not to take it places where I'm going to have to call AAA to get back out.
But yeah, anyway, any community.
Anyway, so this was something that you and I talked about very briefly earlier. Like, where's the line between advice and gatekeeping? Because I don't feel like I struggle with this personally, because kind of like your example you gave earlier, where someone was basically told, like, hey, I see you're using Anderson lower, just be advised, the quality control and check tolerances, yada yada yada. And I don't consider that to be gatekeeping, because you're not crapping on somebody's decision. You're saying, like, hey, just in case you weren't aware because you're brand new, this is something you might want to be aware of. And I feel like there's definitely room to give heartfelt advice. Like, recently in the amateur radio community, I saw a guy who, so when as I started building this man pack out, my first attempt at using a roll of J pole was suspending it off of an aluminum fishing rod, and that did not work very well. Like, I had all kinds of problems with that, and after becoming a radio nerd for reading and reading a lot about it, I realized that the problem was the aluminum is conductive, and the antenna and the aluminum being that close together and touching each other is a problem. So I unscrewed that problem. But it wasn't a week later, I happened to be in one of the GMRS groups on Reddit, and somebody was doing the exact same thing I had just fought with. They were suspending a roll-up J-pole, I think the exact same roll-up J-pole I use, and they were suspending it from an aluminum fishing rod. And bigger than shit, I jumped in there and I said, "Hey, learn from my mistake. This is what I ran into. This is what I found out. This is how I fixed it." And I got a very quick, prompt response like, "Hey, dude, thanks for saving me a lot of headache." And that was it. It wasn't a, "Oh, you're stupid. Oh, you're a moron. Oh, this, that, or the other.
But
Don't
that's
you
the
know how to
difference between
read?"
advice. I mean, you get this with some of the leadership stuff that I've been looking into and reading on and um, going into. It's advice is basically like you're not gatekeeping to me is just negative feedback. You're saying, hey, you're dumb for doing this, or this is not the right way, kind of thing. Advice is, hey, just a heads up, this is what I did, or these are some problems that I've read, and this is why I didn't go with it, or this is what the issue I had. So hey, just FYI, maybe you might want to go with this brand instead because of this, and this. But hey, man, do your own. Rifle looks cool. Like that kind of stuff is just like that's advice. I mean, by all means, give me a reason to get a BCM lower, but then it's like if you really want to help me out, hey, it's on sale at this website. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do stuff like that. If you really want to push somebody towards a certain brand, help them out. Look it up online for them and say, hey, check this out. It's on sale over here. Go get it. Same thing with ham radios. Same thing with night vision. I mean, that's why we push US night vision. I mean, they're not necessarily the cheapest around, but they're not the most expensive around, and they freaking know their crap. I've never had with Duncan. I mean, it'd be nice to get them back on, like talk to those guys again. And because we've never had this talk, it gets straightforward. It's, hey, we want this, and this is what they have, and this is the information they give, and they shoot it straight. And that's what's nice about some of these companies that when you start talking to them.
Well, and I feel like the biggest difference between advice and gatekeeping is actually it's on behalf of the person giving it. It's the intent. Like when I gave that person advice, it was because I really didn't want to see that person spend an entire evening frustrated that his antenna didn't work and then have to
Mhm.
because you have to understand when I encountered this problem, dude, but like before I sat down and read about it and figured out, and I read 4 papers that night on freaking antenna theory. If you think you have insomnia, reading about antenna theory is a great way to cure it. It'll put you right to sleep or make you suicidal, one way or the other. But in any case, like I was checking continuity on the antenna itself. I was checking continuity in the connector. I was questioning whether my radio had a problem. I was going in like, who remembers the Looney Tunes where you'd have like Donald Duck and he would try to go in 4 directions at the same time and then split into 4 pieces and they all run around like chickens with their heads cut off? That was me that afternoon because I was so frustrated and so spun up about what is the problem here? Why isn't this working? And it wasn't until I was actually taking the antenna down off the mast and I happened to like hold the mast in my left hand and the antenna in my right hand, and they were about 1.5 feet apart, about shoulder width, and somebody happened to key up on that repeater and I could hear them clear as a bell for the first time all day. And as they were talking, I just moved my hand with the antenna closer to the aluminum mass without touching it, and the signal went away. And I was like, "Oh Jesus Christ!" So then I figured out, electromechanically why that was happening. But I digress. But I didn't want this person, who I've never met before, and I'll probably never talk to him again. I didn't want him to have to go through the same frustration I did, because he was about to do exactly what I did with the same results. And my intent wasn't, "Hey, you're a moron." It was, "Hey, bud, I made this exact same mistake. I'd really like to prevent you from having to walk over that same ground." Whereas I feel gatekeeping is not about trying to, I don't believe gatekeeping is done with the intent of improving the other person's position. I feel like it's done to prop up the person doing it. In other words, like by telling you how stupid you are, I can feel superior, or I can look superior because I've done this the right way with the right stuff and you haven't. So that's like my personal metric, is that if you go into a conversation from the standpoint of this person's an idiot and I'm right and I'm going to make them look and feel stupid so I can feel better about myself, then I think you're gatekeeping. I think if you go into it from the perspective of I obviously have more experience or I have different experience in this and I want to share that so that this person can benefit without having to go through all the headache I did to get the knowledge, then I don't think you're gatekeeping. I think it just has to be done from a perspective of like, this person's new, we were all new at one point, and at some point, every one of us joined these communities not knowing what the hell we were doing. We had to figure it out. We're looking for information, we're looking for resources, we're looking for other people's experience. But you have to understand that not everybody is going to go spend $4,000 on Daniel Defense or 10 grand on night vision binos, or, sell their house in the suburbs and go move out to 20 acres, live like Little House on the Prairie, just so they can honor your idea of the perfect gun guy, night vision nerd, prepper, whatever. Like, people are not going to do that. They're going to do what they can, where they are today, and you got to meet them there. And that's always been something that I've been really big on with preparedness is I've had a person literally tell me, now bear in mind, Andrew, you and I have been talking for 8 years now. We've been in these communities for a long time. And I don't think there's many people that would make the argument that we're not both in the preparedness community. But I had a person literally tell me to my face, if you're not homesteading, you're not a prepper. To my face.
Slap 'em.
And well, I all I did was I tilted my head and I said, that's kind of a hard sell for a person that like lives in the suburbs and my career is in the city and my wife's career is in the suburbs, and like, what are you saying? If I might as well just give up if I'm not willing to move out in the middle of nowhere and just grow my own food like Little House on the Prairie. And he said, you can do whatever you want. I'm just telling you, you're not a prepper. And I was like, cool story, bro. And I just walked off because at that point,
did you get his name? I'm not saying throw it out there, but you just write it down so his house to go to first. Apparently he's giving himself up.
I couldn't even tell you what his name was. I put most of that out of my memory, but I keep it buried way in the back of the brain box just as a reminder to like never ever be that person that says, if you don't do X, you're not a prepper. Because we've had conversations with people who live in apartments, and if you tell a person that lives in an apartment, well, if you don't get out of your apartment, go move out to the middle of nowhere and start homesteading, you're not a prepper, that's not helping them. All that does, if it discourages them, then it stops them from preparing, which could save their lives. And worst case, you turn them off so hard to the preparedness lifestyle, they never want to rejoin it again. And I can't sign off on that. It's frustrating to know that people like that exist in this community that I enjoy being a part of. And the best thing I can do is try to not be that person. But here's a question. Knowing that those people, not that kind of backdoor.
Jeez.
Where is the back door? Knowing that those people exist in these communities, knowing that they're going to gatekeep, knowing that they are going to try to turn you off because you bought a Poverty Pony, or you bought Anderson, or you bought Gen 2 Night Vision and you're poor. Knowing that you're going to encounter those gatekeepers, what's the way forward? Because I'm assuming you join these communities. I mean, that's one option.
I mean, but that's the thing, though. These people, who gives a crap? If they don't give or if they don't give like needed feedback or anything that's constructive towards what you're doing, if you can delete their comment, send them just middle finger and keep walking. See you later. Like, don't let them bother you. Don't let them discourage you from doing what you want to do. Just keep going. Do your thing. Because who gives a crap? Especially on the internet. If it's somebody that you see every day in person, in and out, and then you can say, hey, maybe confirm to their face and say, what the heck is your problem, kind of thing. But if they're on the internet and you'll never see them, then F them. Like, just delete their comment, ignore, whatever you got to do, but don't let them get to you.
Yeah, and I think the other advice I give, because I mean, I do a lot of internet crawling and forum crawling, looking for information, and honestly, I find that in a lot of those situations, that if you become a lurker, which for anybody not familiar with that forum term, maybe I'm dating myself, that's a person that reads a lot and doesn't post very often. I find that 9 times out of 10, if you just sit back and you read, like, don't ask a lot of questions at first. Just search a lot, read a lot, browse a lot. I find that 9 times out of 10, you'll find the information you're looking for, and you're able to kind of like cruise through the forums or cruise through the internet, find the information without dealing with the gatekeepers at all, because they don't know you exist. They're there looking for an opportunity to be an a-hole, and you don't give them one. You just go find the information that you need. And on the offhand chance you do feel the need to post about it, do it with a thick skin. Just know that those people are out there, and you're going to have to write them off, and you're going to have to just ignore them for lack of a better word. But I mean, I bring all this up to say that, like, you know, if you're the person who in hindsight you feel as though you might be guilty of gatekeeping, please stop that, because we need to regard every person coming into whatever community we're part of as an opportunity to keep that community alive. Because if you're not welcoming people in, if you're not growing your numbers, if you're not expanding that base, then believe me when I tell you that you will be the last person left in that community that you may or may not be passionate about. And like, I personally, you know, like over the years, I've been involved in the car community. I've done various things, you know, as hobbies, and I've left a lot of those because, you know, my interests moved on. But the things I'm still passionate about, I want to see those communities continue forever because I'm passionate about them. I think that they're necessary. I think they're useful. But if I'm the only person left on the internet who's playing around with radios in my basement, then it ain't doing me a lot of good. If you are the last person who's into preparedness, I mean, it might do you a little bit of good, but it ain't going to do the community much good. And just to circle back through some of these questions, because it's mostly been Kyle and my wife. Kyle said that when he first joined the group, he was nervous to ask general basic questions about ARs. And quite frankly, given some of the crap we see on the internet these days, that's fair. It's fair to be nervous about that. Because for all you knew, you were about to, you know, kick over a hornet's nest run by a bunch of a-holes who just wanted to friggin' make fun of you. Unfortunately, like, I want to say that the core group that's kind of coalesced around matter of facts, we just don't tolerate that very well. Like, I want everyone to benefit from everybody else's knowledge. I want everyone to help each other. It's kind of the whole point of doing this. And I totally understand you about night vision as a flashlight. Totally get it. For years and years and years and years. And, you know, to this day, I carry a flashlight in my back pocket, not a PVS 14, because if you think I get some funny looks in a white-collar office for having a flashlight in my back pocket, carrying around a PVS 14 in my pocket would get me some really interesting looks. But anything else you want to slip in here?
No, just don't be a dick.
No, please don't. I mean, always operate from that perspective of, if someone else is trying to do something that I've done before, politely give them your input, and then just don't be a dick. If they're gonna do it the wrong way, then let them do it the wrong way. I mean, quite frankly, we have a patron in our patron group who has told me on a couple of occasions, like, hey, you're doing that the hard way. And he says his piece and then he backs off. And then usually I have to come back to him a couple weeks later and be like, okay, so what was that thing you were telling me that I ignored you the first time because I was doing things the hard way? But he doesn't push. He doesn't, you know, he doesn't humiliate. He's not a jerk about it. He just says, hey, you're doing that the hard way. If you did it this way, it'd be a little easier for you. And you may or may not figure that out on your own eventually. But I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this up. I really didn't think this would be a full hour, and it's 45 minutes. I feel like it's a good stopping point. I just wanted to talk about it because, like, it was something that I've seen more than once, And I always, always, always try to get people like to leave that habit behind and just really view every person that wants to come into the community as an opportunity to keep the community going. I mean, it is, and it is probably no more important anywhere than the preparedness community because we are already such a small community of people. And like, we have to acknowledge that we're going to have to meet every single potential prepper where they are, give them the knowledge that they can make use of, and put them on the path towards their version of preparedness, not our version of preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Matter of Fact's podcast is heading out the door. If you want merch, the links are in the show description. If you'd like to become a patron, those links are in the show description. If you want to harass me and Andrew, mofpodcast.com is a good place to hit the contact list and send us hate mail. Or you can find us on Instagram or Facebook or here on YouTube or on Rumble or on X, even though I don't check X very often. I probably should. And you can harass us to your heart's content. But have a good night. Stay out of trouble. Talk to you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.